So we said that Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yishmael argue about Mount Sinai, about the experience at Sinai. They come from two different places, which is why they, since they're coming from two different experiences and perspectives, that's why they have the opinions. They hold what they hold. Rabbi Yishmael, who was a tzaddik, Kohen Gadol, somebody who wasn't really of this world, in his position, the main thing is somebody not from this world and therefore not burdened by this world and not having experienced this world the way regular people experience it. To him, what is the main function? What's his main goal? Is to bring godliness into the lowest world. So he sees a world as it is a world, one that doesn't disturb him and his own service of Hashem, but that's what he sees. And his mission is to bring godliness to the lowest of places within that world. Therefore, he says that they said yes to the positive commandments, no to the negative commandments, because they saw the specific details of each mitzvah, the unique impact each mitzvah makes on the human being, on the person that fulfills them, and on the world in which he practices them and performs them. And so therefore they said yes, because each one is unique. Every mitzvah has its own specific function and impact on this world. And also the experience was that they saw what is seen and they heard what is heard, meaning that as they were human beings that are not super sensitive to godliness, in that experience they were still able to be inspired and affected by the divine revelation, as they are human beings. So nothing out of the ordinary happened, and that's precisely the achievement of Mount Sinai, is that as human beings they were able to perceive the divine. Rabbi Akiva, on the other hand, who comes from this world, he represents tshuva, and as we discussed last week, we'll get into it again now. Rabbi Akiva, who's from this world, who has seen the ugliness of this world, experienced the ugliness of the world, and yet rose above it, to him, what was Mount Sinai all about? The ability that a human being has to rise above the human condition and his physical limitations. And therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, the main thing about a mitzvah is touching the divine, is accessing the infinite. Is that, and that's the same in every mitzvah. Every mitzvah we perform, we're fulfilling God's will. And since we're fulfilling God's will, we're connecting with infinite God in every experience. It doesn't matter what the impact it has on the person. It's not about the person. It's about connecting to something higher. And so therefore they said yes to everything. Because what did they see? They saw the yes of everything. They saw the fact that it's fulfilling God's will. Also, what was the experience? The experience was an unnatural one, a supernatural one, where godliness became their reality. People that previously, their reality is the physical world, what they can see and feel and touch, that was their world. And godliness, spirituality was abstract, was theoretical. The reverse happened. Godliness became reality, and this physical world, the things that are normally seen, they merely heard, meaning it remained something that was theoretical to them, wasn't something that impacted them, it didn't have the same grip on them. And so we see how those two disputes between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva are linked, and why each one says what they say. Then we said, at the end of the last class, we got into a deeper understanding of Rabbi Akiva. First we said that according to Rabbi Akiva, you could say there's no difference between positive and negative. The main thing is the common denominator in all mitzvahs, which is fulfilling God's will. But then we said something even deeper than that, which is Rabbi Akiva was on a level where not only did he see the mitzvah as an opportunity to connect with Hashem, but in everything, even in the physical world, he only saw the positive, he only saw the godliness of it. So, meaning, when you come from a perspective that the world only exists because Torah says it exists, so then the world only exists in a Torah context. In which case, all the bad in the world is seen as only an opportunity to serve God. So you don't see the negative, you see the opportunity to serve God. And we talked about from footnote 35 on page 126, we got into that where Rabbi Akiva at the end of his life sacrifices his life sanctifying God's name, and his students ask him, how are you able to proclaim the oneness of God, say the Shema Yisrael, proclaiming God's oneness, when you're staring down such evil, such a challenge to God's oneness. And he said, my whole life I've been waiting for this opportunity, meaning that this ugliness, this challenge to God's oneness, the idea that for serving God and for teaching Torah, he's enduring such unspeakable pain. Why is that? Why does that exist? It exists so that he can sanctify God's name. He was looking for this opportunity. So even in the ugliest and even in the darkest and most ungodly places, what did he see? He saw the yes. He saw the opportunity to connect to Hashem, to connect to God. Once we've explained these two aspects of Rabbi Akiva, we also understand another nuance which we touched in passing in the footnotes, which is a deeper understanding of the wording of the dispute about yes and no, where we said it would seem that Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel are only arguing about what the response was to the negative commandments, because on the positive commandments they both agree. They said yes to the positive. The question is, what did they say to the negative? So it should have said that everybody agrees that they said yes to the positive, and they're arguing about the negative. That's one question. Another question was, why would they say, according to Rabbi Akiva, why would Rabbi Akiva have to repeat that they said yes to the positive and yes to the negative? He should have just said, they said yes to both. To the positive and the negative, they said, the wording in the Hebrew would have been, al hein va'alav hein. To the yes, to the positive and the negative, they said yes. Why does he say they said yes to the positive and yes to the negative? It seems a little bit wordy. Why is that necessary? So we explained based on what we said. First of all, that Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva are arguing on the yes of the positive. Rabbi Shmuel says yes to the specific impact that the positive command has. And Rabbi Akiva says they said yes to the fact of connecting to God, not to the specifics of the mitzvah. So it's a different yes. That's number one. And why Rabbi Akiva says yes to the positive and yes to the negative as opposed to just yes to both is because the yes in the negative is a deeper yes than the yes on the positive. Because the yes in the positive, things that are in this world, in the physical world, opportunities to serve God that don't challenge God. So that's one level of yes. But to get to that, to find the positive even in the negative, even in the ugliness of this world, that's already a deeper yes. That's a different yes. Okay. Let's continue on page 126. Und das is masim. Okay, so the right column, towards the top of page 126. And das is masim, so sein Shitta roines and nishma v'shemin and this idea of Rabbi Akiva seeing the yes, the positive, even in the negative commandments, fits with what he says, his opinion, the position he takes with regard to seeing what is heard and hearing what is seen. When a person is at that level where he hears what is seen, meaning that the physical world no longer is his reality, but he rises above it, where no longer does it have that grip on him, and now it's merely theoretical to him, as the niedrige gashmisdike Welt wird bloß aufgenommen mit dem weiten Banem von Shmiya, that it becomes a distant appreciation and perception of reality. The says be'emes is the mitzias von Welt in ganzen abgefragt, meaning that he reaches a point where to him there is no world. The fact that there's a world is totally not something that is a reality. Und ganze Vergangenheit wird Herr schämen nor mach was die Reis was teure Gitter. The only reason that there is a world is because in his position, from his perspective, is only because Torah gives proof that there's a world. So therefore it's merely theoretical in that sense. Dan is verstandig, not that the Torah gives proof that the world really exists truly, but the point is he gets to it through the process of intellect, through theory. As in jeder Metzias wird gesehen bloß der Teuchenira, was hat zu tun mit an Inyan von Torah Mitzvahs. Since he only hears what was normally seen, since he reaches a point where his connection with the reality of the physical world is such that it's only theoretical, meaning that its whole existence is only because Torah says it exists. So then what does he see when he sees the world? He sees a world that exists because of Torah. And therefore, b'meila, v'men shtoi sich on if Allah. So therefore, when he comes to a negative, if azachvas is menaged to kedusha, what does love mean? What is it something that you shouldn't do? Why shouldn't you commit a sin? Because the sin challenges God. It goes against God. So when you come to something that's opposite, the antithesis of holiness, bis zu azal lav v'yalekim acherim, to the point where you get to such a challenge to godliness, like idolatry, like other things that protest and claim to exist outside of God, which is the greste isnagdusach to Hashem, the greatest opposition to God's oneness. Der fehlt man afilu in dem nit as dem lav die schlechte Seite, nur beike dem hein, die gute Seite. Das was durch dem Nagid kann man mekaim sein dem ebischen civil yelocha alav hein. So when you have a world that only exists in your eyes because theoretically you only hear what is seen, and it only exists through Torah, so then when you come to negativity in this world, you come to unholiness in the world, something that challenges God, even to the greatest challenge to God, which is other forces that proclaim their existence and their dominion, their power. So what does he see there? Since its whole existence is only because it comes to existence through God, so therefore what does he see? He doesn't see the negative, he doesn't see the challenge to God, he sees the opportunity to connect to God even there. And therefore, what's the response to alav? What's the response to the negative commands? Hein, yes. Because he sees the positive opportunity to serve God. Die Shita von Rabbi Akiva, Lagabi die Nyanim von Lav, spiegelt sich euch up in dem Sipper von was the Gemara there erzählt. There's the Gemara at the end of Masechta Makis, where the Gemara, the famous story of Rabbi Akiva, who was and other sages, and they saw little rodents crawling around in the site of the Holy of Holies, and the sages were devastated. A place where it says that no man can walk there. If you go there, it's a capital offense. And now you have little rodents and animals that are yeah. Just like weasels that are there's a weasel. Anyway, so they were devastated. And Rabbi Akiva was laughing. They said, why are you laughing? So he said, because I see that the prophecy that Zion, that Yerushalayim will be desolate, I see that was fulfilled, and now I know that the other one is going to be fulfilled, that there's going to be a redemption. Let's see it inside. So we see, in other words, Rabbi Akiva was able to see the positive even in the negative. When he saw it, he didn't see the negative, he saw the hain in it, not the love. Not the negative, but the positive. Right, so let's see. What does the Gemara say? When they saw the animals crawling around at in the site of the Holy of Holies, is be'ez the andere Tanoim haben der Ruf geweint zu dem was makim shekosov bei vazar akarev yumos v'achshav shulim hilchuba, right? That they saw that the place where it says that a foreigner has no business being there, and if he does, it's a capital crime. And now shulim hilchuba, that little foxes are wandering around there. Hatan Rabbi Akiva gekvol, Rabbi Akiva was celebrated. Und if the Shaila von the Tanoim mit Primat und Mitzachik, when the sages asked him, why are you laughing? Hat Rabbi Akiva sich geantwortet und Masber gewinnt. He explained, azendig wie es wird mit Koim Nevos Uriah. Wegen dem Churban von Yerushalayim und Beis HaMikdash bringt es zu der Warten mit der Sicherheit im Kiyum HaNavur von Zacharia und Yeshu Skenim und Skenim Berchev Yerushalayim. So Rabbi Akiva teaches them that there's a verse that says that links Uriah and Zacharia. So the Rabbi Akiva says, how is there a verse that links Uriah and Zechariah, the fulfillment that Uriah and Zechariah bear testimony, that they will testify to, that they're testifying, their prophecy is a testament. How you put them together? Uriah lived at the time of the first temple, and Zechariah is the second temple. They're two different eras. How are we putting them together as if they're contemporaries? So Rabbi Akiva said they're linked because their prophecies are linked. Uriah's prophecy was that there's going to be the southern Nechresh is going to be, Charish is going to be desolate. Jerusalem is going to be desolate. And Zechariah prophesies that Yerushalayim will be revived, will have a revival, will be, a fox. We said that, right? At the end. Yeah, a fox. That's what we said. Right. Okay. Eventually we said that, right? Yeah. Yes, he just wants to be right. Yeah, okay. So since we see that the pasuk links them to say that you had the fulfillment of one, now certainly we'll have the fulfillment of the other. Okay. This meant as Eichen Azam min Lav Inyan. Vishul Yetzim Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim hat Rabbi Akiva gesehen nicht dem Lav, die nicht gute Seite davon, nur dem Hein. Wie das sagt Eidos auf Kiyum Nevuah Zacharia. Rabbi Akiva, when he sees the destruction of the temple, when he sees it in such stark reality, such a stark experience, what does he see? He doesn't see the destruction. He sees that this is an opportunity for or certainty that the fulfillment of Zechariah's prophecy will come to pass. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We've described Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, and we discussed how they have two different perspectives on what was going on. We said Rabbi Yishmael was a tzaddik, somebody who's not of this world. Rabbi Akiva was of this world, but he's about tshuva, somebody who's risen totally above this world to the extent that reality is totally beyond his. That the reality of this world is only seen through a Torah perspective in his eyes. He only sees the positivity. He only sees the opportunity to connect to God. The question then, though, becomes, where does that leave the rest of us? So we're reading about a dispute between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, and we can't claim to be on either level of Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva. So where do we come in exactly? Where do we fit in? How do we relate to this experience of Mount Sinai as was expressed by Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, their positions. So the Rebbe explains that at the end of the rest of the Sichot. We'll do it inside in a minute, but let's first discuss it outside, then we'll try and get through it in the text. Remember, way back at the beginning of the Sichot, we talked about Rashi. We asked the question about how Rashi, once we said that these two disputes are linked, the Hein, Lav, Lav, and the Rei Mesanishma V'Shem Mesanira. We talked about these two disputes about what went on at Mount Sinai. We said they're linked. And then if you look at Rashi in the Torah, the Rashi's commentary on this, on the verses that describe Mount Sinai, Rashi seems to take both positions. When we talked about Lamer, what's the meaning of the word Lamer? Rashi says that they said Al Hein V'Alav Lav. They said, which is like Rabbi Yishmael, they said yes to the positive, no to the negative. But when it comes to the verse V'cholam Rei Mesakailos, Rashi comments and says, what does it mean Rei Mesakailos? Rei Mesanishma. They saw what is heard. So it seems that Rashi seems to be taking both positions, which means really neither position. It seems inconsistent, especially if, as we explained in the Sikha, their position in both of these instances are linked. Each one builds on the other. So how does that work? So we explained why it's not a contradiction, why Rashi could do that. Here the Rebbe is telling us that actually Rashi's position really kind of is a third position, it's a third opinion. It's not Rabbi Shmuel, not Rabbi Akiva. It's really a third one. That actually works, that doesn't contradict either of their opinions. You could fit it with both opinions, as it says at the end, but the point is it's a different perspective. Rashi, as the Rebbe says many times, all the time, that Rashi, his concern was to explain the Torah, to explain the verses in the Bible according to the simple meaning, and for the Ben Chumash L'Mikra, the 5-year-old child who begins learning Torah, begins learning Chumash, it should be understandable for him. So that the 5-year-old should be able to understand it the way he understands it. That's how Rashi tries to explain it. It should be understandable to him. So what's the 5-year-old represent? 5-year-old represents somebody who's immature in his service of God. Somebody who's, when it comes to serving God, is like a 5-year-old. He's not so advanced yet. And so Rashi's concerned with the servant of God that's not advanced. It hasn't advanced to the level of Rabbi Shmuel or Rabbi Akiva, which basically fits pretty much everybody that's not Rabbi Shmuel or Rabbi Akiva. And Rashi says, how can we experience Mount Sinai? And so what's Rashi tell us? He tells us like this. When it comes to responding yes and no, we obviously are not in a position where we see the world merely as we know the world exists not just because Torah tells us it exists. Also, we don't see the world as merely an opportunity to serve God. We see things that challenge God, things that we struggle with. So when we come to a challenge, it's a real challenge and it's a real struggle, and it causes doubt sometimes and it causes questions sometimes because it has a real grip on us. We don't just see the opportunity to serve God. We struggle. God willing, since we're struggling, we have the strength to overcome it. But it's not so simple for us. Therefore, we can't say that the world to us, what is seen, is heard. We don't hear reality. We see the seen reality, the physical world. And therefore, because we see it, when we do a mitzvah, we see the difference. Each mitzvah has an impact. Each mitzvah we relate to in different ways. When we do a mitzvah, we don't do all the mitzvahs with the same equal enthusiasm. Maybe we strive to, but we don't. There's some mitzvahs that we do that are easier and that we enjoy more. Some mitzvahs we do that are harder or that challenge us or we struggle with. Some mitzvahs we're more militant about, we're more dedicated to, and some mitzvahs more devoted, and some mitzvahs less devout. So in each mitzvah we see the hein and we see the lav. And that's what Rashi is coming to tell us, that we have to serve God in this way, that where we see the physical reality, and therefore al hein va'alav lav, but still when it comes to roy mesakolis, what's Rashi say? Roy mesanishma. Still when it comes to godliness, the approach has to be that we need to see what is heard. Another angle. What's a greater achievement? If we had to rank them, what's a more advanced level of service? Seeing godliness or not seeing the physical reality? What would be if you had to rank them in stages, in levels of service, which one is a higher level? The lower rank would be seeing godliness. Things that are normally heard, to be able to see them. It's a level. It's not easy. We have to work on it. But that would come easier than looking at the reality of which we're a part of as merely theoretical. So, in Rabbi Akiva's perspective, he's on such a level where it's mutually exclusive. You see godliness, you see it to such an extent that the world becomes something you don't see. Okay. But for the rest of us that see this reality, we still have to strive to be able to see godliness as well. What does it mean that we see godliness? If we see this world, it means that godliness needs to be a given to us. That I shouldn't have to explain to myself, get up in the morning and give myself a motivational speech on why I have to serve God. Now, I might not be motivated, but at least intellectually, at least in my mind, I should know, I wake up in the morning, I'm here to serve God. I know that I'm here to serve God. Whether I do or not, okay, I deal with those struggles on my own, everybody in their own way. But the perspective is that God is reality. I have a purpose, a divine purpose for which I was created by my Creator. I wake up in the morning, the first thing I say when I wake up in the morning is I acknowledge God. I say, I acknowledge God. That God is real. And serving God should be my primary focus and concern. And then, because I also see the world, so I struggle through that throughout my day. But that's the perspective I have to have. So therefore, Rashi, in his commentary to the Ben Chomesh, to the 5-year-old, to the beginner, what does he say? When it comes to Lamer, what does he say? Al hein hein v'al lav lav. Each mitzvah, there's the hein, there's the positive, there's the lav, there's the negative. We see mitzvahs, we deal with them, each one in its own way. Each one of us deals with the mitzvahs in our own way. And each mitzvah differently. When it comes to seeing godliness, our perspective on reality, Rashi doesn't address it. Because it's a given to Rashi that we see the seen world. The seeable, the perceivable world is what we perceive as reality. But what does Rashi say? Nishma. We have to see what's heard. That the expectation is that we attempt to see godliness. And the truth is, when we're talking about the Ben Chomesh, the 5-year-old, we're talking about the grown-up 5-year-old, the adult 5-year-old, the one whose service of God, even as an adult, is still a beginner service, a beginner connection. Ironically, when you talk about an actual 5-year-old, actual 5-year-olds can see godliness just the same. They have they have a certain simplicity. They're not jaded, even though they see this reality. Little babies that put everything in their mouth. What's real? Anything they can touch and taste, right? They're very physical beings. They're very physical, but at the same time, since they're not jaded by the perspective of seeing what is seen, they can also see what is heard. You tell them about God, and they accept it honestly and sincerely, and truthfully, and it's very very inspiring. And we can learn a lot from children about how to see what is heard, see the invisible God. But that's the expectation even of us. And so that's why Rashi comments kind of one place it seems like he's taking Rabbi Shmuel's position, another place it seems he's taking Rabbi Akiva's position. Really, his commentary fits according to both, as the Rebbe explains at the end. But really, in a sense, it's a different commentary. It's a different position. The position for the beginner. Okay, let's see chapter 11 here, page 127. How are we doing time? Okay, we have plenty of time. Okay, Yitro. These two positions, Rabbi Shmuel, the tzaddik, Rabbi Akiva, the penitent, the returnee, the Baal Tshuva, we're talking about somebody who's already well on his way. He's either a tzaddik or he's a Baal Tshuva. But what about a 5-year-old studying Torah? Even if in actual years he's been around for a long time, he's an adult, he's a grown-up. It's just that with regard to his service, he's still a child, meaning he's still a beginning. But since he needs to just start now to start serving God, and even there it's only in education, meaning he's still being educated, he's still in training. For him, what is expected? To see what is heard. As er soll sich margel sein, in der Aveide von der Onheib und Hakdame von alle Chalkei Shulchan Aruch, Tchila Simen Aleph und Chelik Aleph Shal Erechaim, Shivisi Avayle Negdi Samit. Als die Samtus in Elikus Nishma soll bei ihm sein in ein Öfen von der Iya Elikus Bepshitus. What is expected of him is what is expected of every Yid. You open a Shulchan Aruch, when you open it for the first time, you open the Code of Jewish Law for the first time, the assumption is you don't know what it says in the book. You're just opening it, page 1, chapter 1. So, paragraph 1. So, you don't really, you're still in the beginning. And what's the first thing you told in Shulchan Aruch? Is Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Samid. That's the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, the opening statement right in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, that God, we have to place God before us. Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Samid, meaning Shivisi, that God is before me, meaning I open my eyes, and who do I see standing before me? I see God. So we have to, the first step in serving God is that God should be in front of our eyes. That God is real. Or we talk about in the Siddur, the beginning, when you wake up in the morning, right when you're still in bed, before you even open your eyes, what's the first thing? How do you get out of bed? What's the motivation? To imagine that God is standing right there. Imagine if the king was standing in front of you next to your bed waiting for you to wake up. Of course you jump out of bed. That's the expectation, that you wake up in the morning, you have to see God standing right there, and that of course you'll jump out of bed and begin serving Him. So the first expectation of even a beginner is, you need to know who you're serving, and God has to be real. You can't start serving God if He's, if you're indifferent about Him, if He's not an important player in your life. So that's step one. You have to see what is heard. Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Samid. Place God before me always. Aber fordern von ihm, soll halten euch bei der Darge von Shemenes Hanira. Soll nicht sehen die Injone Eulam, als die Metzies von Welt soll nehmen bloß bei der Schmier, Metzies bis Chatschus, kämen nicht derweil. You can't expect somebody, though, at this stage, that the physical world should become abstract him, that he shouldn't see the realities of the physical world. That you can't expect. He's still just getting started. Afilu ben erpelt schon bei sich als die Inyanim Aruchim sollen bei ihm sich ablegen bepschitus. Sein aber dann euch die Inyanim Agashmim bei ihm noch als Teufels Mokim und euch bepschitus. You can't, even if he's reached a point where, yes, Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Samid, God is always before him, he's aware of God, he's in God's presence, etc. But you can't expect that at that stage, automatically and already, the physical world is something that's distant to him, is foreign to him. You can't expect that. There's like the song, Essen Essich, Schlafen Schlaf sich, was soll man dann, es daven sich nicht. That is a Chassidic tune where we kind of lament the fact that eating comes natural, sleeping comes naturally to us. Serving God, davening, learning is not something that comes natural to us. We're still beginning. So the Chassid laments, he's sad that that's what happens. So you could get to a point where you could daven. Davening could come naturally on some level. Learning could come naturally or easily or without struggle, without having to, psych yourself up to do it. It'll come natural. But at the same time, eating and sleeping is also, I think Mendel Futerfas, said, he learned Pshat in the song, he explained the niggin like a statement. The song seemingly is a question. You're complaining, I can eating comes naturally, sleeping comes naturally, meaning I'm royin es hanira, I see what's seen, I see this world, but davening, serving God is not natural, it's unnatural. It doesn't come naturally. So Mendel said, no, it's not a question, it's a statement. Because eating and sleeping come naturally, so therefore serving God's not natural. He saw them as mutually exclusive. So if your eating and sleeping are natural to you, then of course serving God's going to be unnatural. So that's already a higher level. That's maybe a Rabbi Akiva level. The meaning of the song simply, and what the Rebbe is saying here, the expectation of us is not to, don't worry about that level, where eating and sleeping should be something unnatural to you. It could come naturally to you, and still, and that's the complaint of the Chassid. He's crying that, I want this to also be natural. Not instead, not one versus the other, but this also should be something that's easy, that doesn't come with that struggle. Okay. In einfache Esis meant, the simple words, it means like this. Bei Ben Chamish is take poshet as darf lernen Torah mekayim sein mitzvahs. Und not die Pschitus is bei ihm, if so viel, as darf sich Gott nicht kaufen sein of them. Simply put, a 5-year-old knows that he has to serve Hashem. He has to daven, he has to learn, he has to do mitzvahs. He knows it, you don't need to explain it to him. He knows he has to do it. Aber euch in den Inyanim, Hagashmim, Achilu, Shti, Kedema, seine gleichzeitig wie Pschitus bei ihm. Ist noch nicht begedert zu peilen bei sich, als seine Tzrachim Gashmim sollen kleine Teufels machen sein und als sei Tom bloß L'Shem Shemaim. You can't expect him to serve God, to do his physical things only L'Shem Shemaim, that he should only eat food that is healthy. The kid wants candies, he wants treats, he wants rewards, he wants incentives. You can't expect him that should be unnatural to him. That's natural to him, but so is spirituality, so is serving God. Und the Rebbe is that in Pirish Rashi, ala Torah, und wie der Mond kam upon mir, hat Rashi sein Pirish geschrieben zum Allermenschen, al derech Abschat, und in ein Öfen, als euch Ben Chamish soll es können verstehen, wird gebracht, bloß der Linie, Roin es Anishma, und nicht Shemen es Anira. Was Cholos Haveda sein inside der Nishma Ruchnis, inside der Nire Gashmis, in an Eifen von Re'eh B'Pshitus. So this is why Rashi in Torah, as we said, Rashi's concern is to explain something in a way that even a 5-year-old child should be able to understand it. In a 5-year-old child's world, the physical world is very much seen. That's a real reality to him. But to that same 5-year-old, God is also very real. And that's what's expected of us. Therefore, Rashi only quotes, if you go back to the source, you look in the commentary, Rashi only quotes Roi Mesakailes, Roi Mesanishvat, that they saw what was heard. But about hearing what was seen, he doesn't say anything. He doesn't bring that quote, that part of Rabbi Akiva's statement, because that's not applicable to the 5-year-old studying Torah, studying Chumash. Das Guf is euch der Hezber of them, was Rashi Ripurushin learned, as der Eufen Lemer is given a lav. Hayes is dort redt sich bescheiches zu Azav, was hat erst betchilas Aveda, Schas Welt hat noch bei ihm a Twisses machen, zet noch in Alikim Acherim, wie euch in der andere Dvar Masurim, dem Lav was in sei. So therefore Rashi, as we said earlier, talking about Rabbi Akim, Rabbi Shmuel, we said there are two positions about what they saw and what they heard. And what they responded, they're dependent on each other. And here Rashi seems to be inconsistent because he's taking Rabbi Shmuel's perspective on the first part about what they responded, yes and no, and Rabbi Akiva's position in the second part. So no, the Rebbe says it's not a contradiction because somebody who's at that level where he sees the physical world, he sees the world. So what if you see the physical world, you also see the challenges of this world. You also see the ugliness of this world. And so therefore, when you see a mitzvah, you see not only the positive, you also see the negative. When you see Alikim Acherim, a challenge of idolatry, you see the negativity, you see idolatry. A challenge to God's oneness that you have to struggle with. So therefore they said, Al Heinain, Al Lavla. Okay. Let's, I think we're out of time. Should we try reading a little bit more?
5 minutes.
We leave on Monday.
Chapter 12, we're done. We're finishing this today. Okay. Let's go. Yud Beis. Das was Rashi learned as the Entfer is given in the Seder von Al Heinain, Al Lavlav, und als Iden haben die Grech bloß zu reines an Nishma, weil das let's skip chapter 12. Let's just go to chapter 13. Chapter 12, the Rebbe talks about. Chapter 12, the Rebbe explains how this explanation of Rashi also fits according to Rabbi Yishmael.
How?
Because according to Rabbi Yishmael, the whole point is the bringing godliness into the lower world, into our world, into Mata, into Tachtin. So according to Rabbi Yishmael, what would emerge? That even when Shem in Esanishma, even in such a place, you should be able to bring godliness down. The only thing is, we can't expect to operate in that level. We're not operating on the level of Rabbi Shmuel. But that's okay. That's fine. Let's.
Wow.
If you're concerned with how Rashi's explanation, because we kind of explained how it fits even according to how it fits both according to Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. You take a look at chapter 12. Let's go to chapter 13. What's the bottom line? As the Reifen Aveda we see is angewiesen in Pirish Rashi. What? Yep. Mikol Amr. What is the bottom line from everything we said? What's the takeaway? As the Reifen Aveda we see is angewiesen in Pirish Rashi ala Torah. But das geht nicht Geld.
Kann man Geld von haben?
Klar, der Beisoiker, ja. Als den Jahren von Elikus darf in sein Bepschitus, Reines Anishma, beeis euch die Jahren der Elam, haben noch ein Twisses Makim. Und der Fahrer Lav is blazed betchilas Aveda. The bottom line is like this, that even while a person is under the grip and in the influence of this world, don't be intimidated, don't be discouraged. Know that God could still be real to you as well, even in that level. However, don't be satisfied. That's only step one. This is only an introductory level of serving God. That's how we begin. Aber nachdem darf man steigen und zukommen zu einem von die zwei Fane Aveda. But after this, we have to strive. We have to try and reach to one of the next levels of Aveda, the level of either Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva, to the Aveda von dem Shachas Elikus Mailo Lamata, bis zu dem Mata, was is bedarga Shemenes Anishma, either to the level of drawing godliness, the level of Rabbi Yishmael, the idea of bringing godliness into the lowest world, where the world is a world that seems to reject godliness, into the lowest place, but one that you're not burdened by, one that you don't struggle with because you're beyond it. Other to the Aveda von Halam Matal, or the process of elevating, where you come from it, and find the positive in it. Areisheben, sich, und die Welt von die Tevagdarim. Bis es nicht bloß ist sie mehr nicht Master, weil kosten andere, aber rein es nicht nur als die Welt setzt sich klar nicht an, die Metzias la'atzma, Shem in Sinira und Allah heim. So we have to strive to either reach that level of Rabbi Shmuel, the idea of bringing godliness into the world. We are not impacted, we are not influenced by the physical world. We're all about bringing light into the physical world, and we're not muddied, we're not conflicted, and we're not influenced by that world, and so we can bring it to the lowest places, which is a level that tzaddik can go to the dirtiest places to bring holiness. People that aren't on the level of Sheimin es Hanishma, Rein es Nira, the level of Rabbi Shmuel, if you're still of this world, you can't say, I'm going to go bring godliness to the ugliest parts of the world.
You have to be on that level first.
You have to be on that level, but we have to strive either to reach that level where we don't see it as it's perceived by regular human beings, by regular people, but in the tzaddik's perspective, or in the other level, which is to rise, to elevate the world, to find the redeeming quality, the godliness within it, to find the hein in the love, the positive, the yes in the no. Since both opinions, both Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva are both parts of Torah, Torah is a lesson for every Yid. Not only the halacha, but even the opinions. Even when you have a dispute, two opinions, since they're both in Torah, both are a lesson for us. They're both applicable. Therefore, we have to have both aspects. We have to both draw godliness in, bring it down into the lowest places, and at the same time rise and elevate the physical world as well. Was das ist Achana und Akli zum Kiyum Ayud, was samti Katkeit Shem Sheisayich, lehewe Kedein und Kedein, was wird sich ausführen in der Gula Mitzvah Shlema durch Mashiach Tzedekei Megam. This is the idea, this is a preparation when we can do both. When we can do Rabbi Shmuel's work and Rabbi Akiva's work, both bringing godliness to the darkest corners of the world, and also elevate, find the redeeming qualities within every single thing, find the godly spark within everything, and elevate it, so then we're fulfilling both of their positions. That's the idea of V'samti Katkeit Shem Sheisayich. It says that, which is a prophecy about when Mashiach comes, that your walls will be made of precious stones. What's Katkeit? A precious stone. What kind of precious stone is the dispute? The sages dispute what the Katkeit is. Whether it's Shoyam or Yoshvei, whether it's an onyx stone or another one. I remember which the translation of it. Whatever, one of two stones. A Shoyam or a Yoshvei. So the Gemara says, Lahevi Kedeinu Kedein. I'm sorry, the Gemara says, so which one is it? So the Gemara says, there's an opinion that the Malachim argued about it, what the meaning of Katkeit is. And then the Gemara says, then there's also an opinion that the sages argued. One sage said like this, one said, and then the Eibusha said, let it be like both of them. The wall should be made out of both stones, both things. And that's what Katkeit is. Katkeit is like a kind of Kedein ukedein. It should be like both. So when we can satisfy both opinions, we can fulfill both. That's a messianic concept, where we can do both sides, both bringing down and bringing about, exactly, and that's a preparation for the time of Mashiach, when we may it be speedily in our days. Amen.
You got it?